Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this North Grenville Writers Circle online video interview. I'm Pamela Welling, and it's my honor to introduce RoseMarie Keogh-Smyth, whose book, Don't Have Sex 9 Months Before Christmas and Other Practical Financial Tips, offers a refreshing and insightful perspective on personal finance. With over 25 years of experience across government, finance, health, and research sectors, RoseMarie now focuses her energy on helping others take control of their finances through her work as the mortgageless mentor. Before publishing her book, RoseMarie began sharing her approach to an online course designed to help people take control of their finances. The program walks participants through how to establish a simple but effective system for eliminating debt, discover stress-free ways to reach their financial goals, and create a personalized payment plan that leads to their very own Freedom Day. Whether it's through her book, her online courses, or her speaking engagements, RoseMarie is passionate about helping people move from overwhelm to action. Welcome, Rosie.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you. We chatted a little bit before we started and we were laughing a little too much. So we'll see if we can, get through it without laughing. I guess, today's day and age, if you can't laugh, what's the point, right?
And it's all about entertainment, even in finances.
There you go. So I just want to dive in with a couple of the reviews on your books.
Sure.
So I'll start with Matt Pekar, who's the fire chief of Wasakasing
Wasakasing.
Nation. Wasakasing. Actually, that's Wasakasing. I love that. This book had me reading from start to finish. It was like I was taken on a finance adventure. My honest thought is this book should be taught or recommended for reading for grade 12 and university. The informative book will teach you financial discipline, at least for me. One of the tactics suggested, such as moving cents to savings, has started, and I'm on track to having a healthy savings account. Even quitting the expensive coffee shop 2 times a week. That'd be hard. I truly enjoyed this book. With this book, I was able to change my financial goals and outlook that had affected me in a positive way. So, good review from Bill on Amazon calls the book Easy and Witty Coaching for Financial Freedom and All That. Money management and financial literacy is one of those areas that can greatly affect how one ultimately shows up in life. I love how Rosie uses the easy button coaching method to help readers tackle their debt so they can realize their dreams with a no-nonsense, common-sense approach that you can implement right away while reading. I also enjoyed the sprinkle of wit and humor, which is, I guess, why you made me laugh before we started this, right? Can you talk about what inspired the title of the book, Don't Have Sex 9 Months Before Christmas and Other Practical Financial Tips?
A few years ago, well, 7 years ago, I was at a book writing conference and just a weekend of trying to get your book on paper. As we were going through the different tips, I realized that one of the most powerful memories, I guess, of stress around money was Christmas. My sister has 2 children within 2 pay periods of Christmas, and every year she would struggle. So I asked her one day, I said, so do you know when your children were born? Yes. You're aware Christmas is at the same time every year? Yes. Can we do something about this? So in the book, it says that she never did figure it out. I asked, hey, sis, you still stressed? When my sister read the book, she said, but don't you remember we did eventually figure it out? I took your advice. I said, oh, do I need to recall the book? And no, don't worry about it. So based on the fact that Christmas can be stressful enough, adding babies to the mix, adding birthdays to the mix, it just crunches you a little bit more. And one of my cousins married a woman, I call her Jennifer Mercedes Q. Her birthday is Christmas Day. So Aunt Eva tears down the tinsel at noon and puts up the party balloons and brings out the shots. And it becomes a birthday party as of noon in their house to honor the fact that you should have a birthday. You still need to have a birthday.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I always hear that they get ripped off because they just get 2 smaller gifts or something than the.
Yeah, one large gift or 2 small ones.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to become interested in personal finance and financial planning?
Wow. I was, Lord, I was probably in my late teens when I did my sister's first budget. We realized I was a bit of a kitchen witch when it came to finances. Now, I do not subscribe to the budget methodology anymore. There is a section in my book called Budgets Are Bullshit. Oh, sorry, you can't edit that.
Okay.
So we sat down and we did a budget that relied on her finding a certain amount of change in the couch. Now, when I was in my late teens, people still carried change. Now you're not going to be able to rely on that anymore. So I have some concepts that still deal with loose change and an extra loose change concept in your bank account. But we sat down, we made the budget, we tried to make it work. Of course, it felt restrictive. When I was handed my student loans after 4.5 years of university, well, legend has it, I broke out into hives. And I couldn't believe the amount of money that I was going to lose every month in interest alone.
Mm.
So I made a pact that it took me 4.5 years to get into debt. It was going to take me 4.5 years to get out. When my now husband started seeing the way that I was paying off debt and still having fun, I bought my Harley. I bought a piece of land on the water from my uncle. Very good deal from Uncle Pat. He asked me if I was robbing banks in the night. So I started teaching people my weird ways with money, and it kind of caught on. So quite a few of my friends now attribute their mortgage freedom, their financial freedom to some tips that I taught them 25 years ago.
It's important, a lot of people get in that cycle and can't get out. So
Yeah.
it's important. So what's your target audience? Do you have one?
Now, so I pretty much help anybody who's struggling, but my target audience would be the people who they have money, they have a decent wage, but they're a little bit confused as to where it all goes. Why are they not further ahead? Why are the bank accounts empty? Why is there no savings? Why are the children's education funds not filled? And you're looking at your bank going, but I make a good wage. What went wrong? So these are my people. I can show you where it went wrong. I can show you how to turn it around, and it doesn't hurt all that much.
Yeah, the book offers practical templates that readers can use to assess their bills and savings goals while providing actionable steps to take control of their financial future. With a solid plan in place, readers can begin transitioning from living paycheck to paycheck and move toward planning for meaningful purchases or even exciting travel experiences. Like you could pay your bills and still get a Harley and what have you. Could you share your insights on the importance of building habits that reinforce these measures? Additionally, what common pitfalls readers should keep in mind as they embark on the journey?
So habits are the backbone, right? What we do every day is going to dictate where we end up. That lovely to-do list we were talking about before this interview.
Yeah.
So if you can take small steps every day towards a goal, it's the only time in my life, thanks to Joe Bendel and her coaching, it's the only time in my life I actually aim for average. So if every single day I achieve something small on average, by the end of the year, I have achieved 365 small average things that are quite fantastic and glorious, right? It's how I paid off the mortgage. It's how I got the solo trip to Ireland. It's how I wrote the book. So some of the simplest and most effective habits, automation, the sweep. So the sweep is the same concept as that loose change that you had in your pocket that you used to throw in a bowl when we were kids. And now it's in your bank account because everything is electronic. So you go to your bank account and you sweep the loose change. You sweep the tens or the fives or the cents. Sometimes you can sweep up to the hundreds, like just once swept to the thousands. It was amazing. But you sweep that into another account where you're either putting it on your debt or you're putting it on a dream. If you can go in and do that, just the check-in every day, if you're actually sweeping every day, you have a shopping problem and we need to talk. So one woman, she told me that she'd started sweeping her spare change into a separate account. And within weeks, she had enough there that she was able to pay for something that she'd normally put on a credit card. It doesn't take long to start accumulating. That moment was kind of the one that saw her changing from I'm a spender, I'm always going to be in debt, to, hey, I'm a saver. I can do this. So what about the pitfalls though? One of the big ones is if you read the book and get all excited and you want to do it all at once. I warn you about that in my book, that it isn't a book to sit down and read cover to cover and then do everything. You're not going to be able to find the money that quickly. So you can kind of peck into it. You do the front part where you figure out what your most evil debt is, basically. And you figure out what your biggest dream is, and then you focus. So the mortgage, unless it's your only one, can't really come before the crazy credit card bills. But you just kind of, you take it step by step and know that by the end of the process, you're going to be much further ahead than you ever thought you would be. So don't try and tackle it all at once. And don't get all upset when you fall off the wagon. Right? When I was in school, yeah, there were some times that the needs and the wants kind of hold it in together. Right? The cowboy boots. But if I would kind of fall off the wagon, go with my aunt, have an amazing day, and we'd hit all the consignment shops, and I'd be leaving the store with like bags and bags of clothes, because I love clothes, and I love clothes from consignment shops because I don't fit into today's idea of what I should look like. I couldn't fall off and say, oh, well, there, I blew the budget and it will never work. So just give up on, making those payments towards the debt. You just kind of go, okay, I just bought all of my celebrations for the next year. So let's get back on track and get back to paying the debt.
So be more conscious of what you're doing and what you're doing it for, I guess. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to admit, I have slowed down on my Tim Hortons coffee and do more coffee at home, but and my husband is Todd as well.
Oh, excellent. The
And he's
Todds.
better money than me, but yeah. So it's also kind of like what your partner's goals are as well. You have to have
You
your
do
own
have to talk about that.
things. Yeah. So one of the key pieces of advice early in the book is about the credit checks.
Yes.
For those that might not have considered the importance of them, can you share a little bit of practical steps to build and maintain strong credit and to actually go out and see what your credit is like?
Sure. Now, the joys about Zoom, I don't know where we're going to end up in the world with our conversation, but in Canada, Equifax and TransUnion will give you a free credit check every year. A lot of the banks are getting on board though too, so you can just kind of keep track of your credit in your online banking. I love CIBC's online banking app. Well, actually, I prefer the online version to the app. I'm not a big fan of the app. I like the layout of the online version. So how are you going to build a strong credit? When you're lining up your debts in order of, which one must die first, you're going to always make sure that the minimum payment is covered on time, every time. So I talk about automating that in the book. And if you miss, consider it to be like trust. So if I break trust with you, it's going to take a lot for me to get it back. But if I maintain trust with you, it's a lot easier to get ahead. So you break trust with your credit, it takes a lot more work to bring your numbers back up. There's a theory that if you keep it below, keep between 30 to 50% on anything. So your line of credit should be under 50%. Your credit card should be under 50%. But it depends on the day that Equifax or TransUnion actually ding your account, because you might have just bought something on your credit card and you're paying it off next Tuesday, but they caught you on this day. So you don't get too excited about that. Don't apply for a bunch of credit at the same time, because they're going to look at you and think that you're about ready to go on a shopping spree. You are a high risk person at that point. The more credit I have access to, the higher risk I am. Even if all of my lines of credit are at zero, but I have access to $400,000. So I'm risky at that point. So you want to make sure that you have enough to cover you when you need it, but don't go grabbing credit all over the place. Now, on the other side of that, there are some people who are afraid of a credit card. So knowing that they're not good with money, they don't want to get a credit card, but by not having a credit card, you're actually hurting your score as well, because you might be a ghost. If you don't have things in your name, if they're all in your partner's name, or you're renting, or like there's not enough for Equifax or TransUnion to go on. So what you could do in that case is get yourself a small credit card, set up some of the things that you're already paying for, your Netflix account, your cell phone bill, your hydro, set it up on the credit card. Actually, I don't think hydro does. Stinson lets you, but I don't think hydro lets you. But set it up on the credit card and then cut the credit card up. Or quite literally put it on ice. You can put it in the freezer. You can float it into a container of water, throw it in the freezer. And if you really need it, you're sitting there, trying to hammer a nail, trying to get it out. You really want it. By the time you have rescued your credit card, you've had a chance to cool off and to determine, do I really need it or am I throwing it back in the freezer? If you've cut it up, call the bank. If you absolutely needed to book a hotel, to book a flight, say it got destroyed in your washing machine. They'll send you a new one, right? Then when you get back from your vacation, chop it up again.
That's good. That's important, especially for young people not knowing to start getting credit, you know?
And as soon as you hit university, they are pounding you with applications for credit cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you can't pay it off, you know?
At least you don't get kneecapped.
That's true.
Bit cut off at the knees, but
So I like the speaking of working with our husbands, I like the idea of the reset button, because my husband and I sit down just before New Year's every year and we say, okay, so we plan to do something this year. Are we still going to do it this year? Or are we going to do it in 2 years from now? So can you talk about because you talk about it in your book, the importance of sitting down for prior to New Year's and doing the reset button with your finances?
sure. So the reset button, it can actually be done whatever works for you. Some people use their birthday, some it's September because it's that rush of school and the joy of buying planners and pens and all of these things. But New Year's is a lovely time when you're thinking about the ball dropping and the champagne toast and the whole thing, where you can just sit down and review the importance of where you're heading together. So, kind of press pause, check in, redirect, no shame and blame. This is just a fun conversation of dreaming, right? Now, my husband is not that guy. He can't imagine if. He hates that what if scenario. He just can't do it. So I have to approach it a little bit differently with him, but I do it by myself, right? Where I'm just kind of getting right in there and making sure that everything is on track for our entire family. And then I will ask him, what one thing this year do you want done around the house? What one thing this year do you want done about vacations? And if he knows, if he doesn't give me an answer, I will make it up myself. So
There you go.
you better put in or don't complain about it by the end of the year. So the biggest question. So you're looking at, does my money reflect my values? Have I moved the needle closer to some of our big goals? How are our debts doing? Like, do we do a net worth sheet at the end of the year? I used to do that. I actually found mine from my 20s in an old notebook, notebooks everywhere. But the biggest one for me is, how am I spending my time, my money, and my kisses? Those are my most important resources that I have. They're the currencies that truly shape our lives. That's the one that I really ask myself at the end of the year.
That sounds important. That sounds good. That's important. Relationships, money, and time. Yeah.
And as we're both kissing Todds, I mean, we understand this.
I get, yeah. So the book also offers valuable insights on how to earn, like what to do with money that's like bonus money. You weren't expecting it. So either you got paid more, your taxes comes back and it's you get a return, or what have you. So can you share some thoughts on the best ways to put this extra income to good use?
Sure. So the 3-pay month is also one of those, right? Everybody gets all excited with that 3-pay month, and they spend it 17 times before the month ever arrives. There's a section in the book where you're looking at that money. So you want that magical dream that is bigger than the coffee out, that is bigger than the new pair of shoes, that is bigger than the consignment shopping with Aunt Doreen, that it gets you. For me, it was my Harley, right? I wanted to have a Harley before the 100-year anniversary, which was 2003. And that was the big thing. My then boyfriend, now husband, couldn't get me on board with the with the couple's house dream, right? I owned a motorcycle before I owned a home. I owned my Harley, which was my second motorcycle, before I owned a home. Priorities. So if you have that one massive dream in your head that is just either just you or just you as a couple or you as a family, you can make magic happen. If you stop for a moment before the tax return comes in, before the 3-pay month, and you go, you know what, if any money comes in, I got a 20 and a card from my grandma, it's going there. Because that's where the magic happens. That is where you can actually change the trajectory of your future with that extra bit of money. It jumps you forward. It can't always go towards the debt. Now, when you're still struggling, when you're still like up to your eyebrows in debt, yes, you might want to split that money in half and go half debt, half dream. But man cannot live on bread alone. Man cannot live on paying off debt alone. So you've got to be able to give yourself the light at the end of the tunnel. And you want to be able to get in touch with compound interest on your side, as opposed to just the compound interest of your interest rates, of
Right.
your debts. So decide ahead of time, make an impact. And taxes are coming in. If people haven't finished their taxes now, this is the time of year. This year, May is your 3-pay month for if you're on the same schedule as I am. So it's knowing those things are coming and just having the magic ready to lay down.
Makes sense. Have a plan before. Don't just blow it on something and then realize you could have had it on your dream and you're just spending it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, when I was so remember, we don't always make good choices. Before I bought the Harley, I had a lot of Harley t-shirts. I picked them up all over the place. I had Harley belt buckles. I had a Harley belt. And I realized one day, if I stop buying this stuff, I might actually get my Harley.
Yeah.
So I still have a wild collection. I've sadly grown out of some of them, but I still have my Harley shirts from back in my 20s because a lot of them, I mean, back then it was all boxy boy shirts. They didn't make the female shirts, which means I still fit them. But when I put one on from back then, I remember, yeah, like that made a huge difference, realizing that I could just stop buying the Harley crap and I could buy the Harley.
Yeah.
I could have a real deal. So put it towards the real deal, whatever that is for you.
Buy the Harley. Yeah.
Buy the Harley. I highly recommend buying the Harley.
So I got 2 more questions after this.
Sure.
Can you let our viewers know what the book offers that we haven't yet mentioned?
Whew, we got through quite a bit. So there's a regular income for those who are not getting a paycheck, who are not on a set pension, who are not, that's just not there for you. You're an entrepreneur, you're a real estate agent, you're a finance advisor. If you're a finance advisor, I really, really hope you're using your own skills on you. There's a section about that. So the deeper importance of your emergency fund. For us, if you're getting a check in 2 weeks or in a month, it's not going to go so badly. But if you don't know when the invoices are coming in and work goes dry for 3 months, now what? So you need to know how to nail it down to keep body and soul together. And do I have enough money to float me through more than I've ever been off before? So the contractors who work outside, if they're always off for 3 months, maybe you better get 4 or 5 months in there just in case.
Right.
There's a quick start guide for estate planning. I spoke with Izzy Farber. He is my estate lawyer. He's taken care of purchases since my very first condo, and he's done my will 3 times. He provides a list of questions so that all of these are answered. They're sent in beforehand, and you're going in to review and sign, as opposed to going in, answer the questions, going back to review and sign, right? So I asked if I could include that in the book, and he said yes. There are some conversation starters where you actually talk about stuff with your family. So there's a section on piggy banks. My son's first experience with piggy banks was entertaining, and I'm so glad that all I did was say short term, long term. Didn't give any more instruction than that, because I mean, one of my favorite memories with him. So it's not really, you don't have to become a financial expert. You just have to know enough to be dangerous. Um, if someone's trying to sell you life insurance, you should know what it is that you need to cover, right? Don't go over, don't go under. You don't need to make anybody a millionaire here. It's about making sure that you're safe, that when you leave, everybody that you love is protected. So there's a little bit about that in there. How to teach your kids to be millionaires and not basement dwellers.
Mhm.
When I was writing the book, so I guess in March, I was at a conference and sitting at breakfast talking to somebody. The waitress joined in the conversation and she'd ask me a question and I'd answer the question. She'd say, well, is that in the book? I'm like, no, take a note. We did this for, I think breakfast lasted 45 minutes or an hour. At the end of our conversation, she looked at me and she said, what about getting my kid out of the basement? She said, I will not buy your book unless there's a section on getting my kid out of the basement. Okay. So there's a section, a couple of ideas for you, both the how to make sure your kids aren't living on 100% wants, because at no point in their lives are they ever going to be there again. If they're in your basement and you're not charging them rent and they're not putting a significant amount of that income that they're making towards getting out of your house, they're never going to be there again. And you're doing a disservice because now they're thinking that this is just normal. All of my money is mine to spend, so I want for play. And then all of a sudden they have to pay bills and they are still spending their money on the playtime.
Right.
And they don't have enough to make rent. They're back in your basement. So we want to avoid that. You got to learn how to say no. That's all there is to it. We want to give our kids so much because maybe we didn't have it. And that's all part of that poverty mindset. That's all part of that lack. I grew up poor. I thought that it was fantastic that I was able to say yes when my child said, can I have it? But then I realized, again, I'm doing him a disservice. So we've changed things in our house as well. What else is there? Now there, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but North Grenville Library has a copy of the book, so you don't even have to go buy it on Amazon, because I know that we're having a bit of an issue now and we're trying to avoid that. But North Grenville, you can walk into the public library. I'm on the author's shelf and you can just pick up the book and get all of these tips into your brain pretty quickly.
And you can go online and look at their catalog and put a hold on it too if they
You
want to
can.
make sure it's there when they go. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the easy button for sure. Now, I do also, I believe I have this in the book, that I also love speaking on stages. I'm kind of learning a little bit more. There is a speaking opportunity coming up for me in May where my coach, Jill Bendel, she's the creator of the Meant for More movement, is going to be hosting an online conference. And it's really about, you are enough. You don't need to go and buy new things. You don't need to upgrade your house, upgrade your car. You've designed a beautiful, incredible life. So let's look at where we are, how we can get closer to where we really want to be, and how we can eliminate all of the things that are kind of getting in our way or stopping us from that because we're trying to fill a hole that is never going to be filled. So taking the time to just breathe, figure out what we really want, put our money towards that. We don't need the rest.
Is that, oh, that's going to be online.
That's going to be online.
Or anybody can, okay, yeah.
Yep. And if you're following me on Facebook or LinkedIn, I will put a post up about more information of that. It isn't until May. We've just started discussing it. On Monday, she has her quarterly reset group where we're all getting together and doing the quarterly plan. So it's part of that cohort because she's going to be opening up the doors to the coaching. So it's part of all of that that we're going to be hosting it in May.
Very cool. So the North Grenville Writers Circle at our heart is a writing group. So do you have any advice for anyone writing a nonfiction book or any type of book in general?
Yes. So I wanted mine to be perfect. Your name is on this. This is like the pride. This is another child, right? We're birthing this. It is really you on the page. I wanted every sentence to be just write. I had 5,000-6,000 words in a draft, and I gave it to my husband, asked him to read it. Well, I don't know if your Todd's sarcastic, but mine is. He called it a pamphlet.
Oh,
No sense of self-preservation, that man. I shrank,
yeah.
which is not a rosy response.
Mm.
But because there was so much passion in that 5,000 to 6,000 words, I shrank and I put the project away. That was absolutely not his intent. This is a man who loves me down to my toes and supports me. And I mean, it's incredible having him in my life. But sometimes even the people who love us the most say things that stop us. So if that happens to you, find different people. Go hang out with Pam. Right? Go sit with writers. Surround yourself with people who believe in big, massive, juicy dreams. So 7 years ago, my cousin told me that I needed to write a book. And this December, I placed a paperback with my name on the cover in my grandmother's hands for her 100th birthday.
Mm.
So write the book, get it done. Be very proud of it. Put your name on it. This is you. Don't let anybody tell you that it should be some other way than you actually want it to look. For the locals, you can then get it on the North Granville Public Library shelf, right? Like this is pretty awesome to be able to see your book up there.
Yeah.
But don't take 7 years. Someone out there needs to hear what you have to say. They need it now. So we have to stop holding it back and being selfish about the information that we hold, whether it's a nonfiction or a fiction, because those fiction books bring so much to people. I have a library. I've got a degree in English literature, so you can imagine the number of books that
Oh,
I've read. It brought joy to my world. It brought joy to my son's world to be reading children's books. I am hoping to change the world with my book. Do not hold the information to yourself. Get it out there.
I like that. I like that. And that starts, it's, because a lot of people say, they have imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
If you put it in your head that, hey, people are waiting for it. Let's go.
they
Come on.
are.
You can do this.
Nobody talks finance like I talk finance.
Yeah.
I evidently fire chiefs respond to me. So if you know a fire chief, you might want to buy this book for him. There's a couple of them now that have been like, I read it on the plane in an afternoon. It's really getting to the people. So those who do not read finance books, read my book.
Hmm.
Because it isn't going to bore you. The title alone, people know that this is not your normal finance book.
Hmm. Very good. I like that. That's very good. So your dedication is
Ah,
to
my
your
grandmother.
grandmother. Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about her and why the dedication?
So my grandmother, we call her Little Guy.
Mm.
She's not your squishy, hugging, cookie bacon type of grandma, right? She's a bit prickly like the roses that she plants. For most of my life, she preferred me at a distance, right? I think I was 3 or 4 years old when my mother brought all three of us over. The next time she saw me, I was 37 with a 2-year-old.
Mm.
In her mind, I was still that 2-year-old, right? We showed up at her door with my uncle, her son, and we stayed for 3 weeks. She was not happy. She's used to living in her own home alone. She's not used to people. She doesn't understand this Canadian concept of house hopping, where we go and we hang out at this person's house and that. Why are you always in each other's house? But over the years, so I was her favorite pen pal. But whenever I'd say, oh, I was thinking of coming for a visit, no.
Mm.
Right? Why would you want to? I'm old, leave me alone. Right? But over the past few years, something has shifted. And now when we see each other, even if it's a video call, we both light up. It is, I love that woman. She is strong. She is funky. She was 97 years old. No medication, living alone, doing her own cooking, her own cleaning. Pat, a few doors down, would take care of the heavy shopping, but other than that, she was walking to town and doing it herself. Like, incredible lady. One fall changed her life.
Mm.
So she was brilliant with money. She's still in her own home at 100. My mother has to stay there simply because she can't be alone all the time. So it's either my mom or when my mom is here, like she is now, there's a caretaker there. Debbie is one of her favorites. But she created the space for her to be able to be safe, content, and in her own home by her own fire. My Uncle John built the conservatory. So there's a sunroom at the back and there's a front room that's kind of brick on the bottom and a bunch of windows in there. We lost him a couple of years ago. She sits in those rooms, she follows the sun, and she feels him there. If she was in an old folks home, she'd lose that. She'd lose her teacups. She'd lose her vacuum cleaner. If she didn't have the resources to stay where she is, she'd be in a lot worse shape than she is right now. She would have died. She cannot handle when she went to the hospital. She said, Rosie, they've put me with the old people. And I'm going, you're 99. But she doesn't see herself as that.
Yeah, yeah.
So to be able to, like I've always told her that I received your finance gene. Not your green thumb. My thumb is black as can be. But I received your finance gene. And to be able to take that book and to place it in her hands on her 100th birthday. I wasn't just giving her my words like our letters always did. I was showing the legacy that she had helped build. So 5 generations are being affected by this book. Her financial horse sense was fed into me all my life and is coming out in this book. So we've now taprooted that information into the family tree. There's no getting rid of it. The book exists now, right? It's not going anywhere. So her financial horse sense will live on through my line. Nobody will ever lose it. Now we get to share it with a whole bunch of other people too, but my family gets to keep that financial horse sense right in the DNA. So when she handed her the book and she's reading the title and thinking, I must be insane. Why am I giving her a book that is titled Don't Have Sex 9 months before Christmas at her age? And then she gets to the bottom and she sees my name. And she looked at me. And she looked at the book and she looked at me and she said, that's you. I said, yeah, I wrote that book. You wrote a book. Oh, you clever stick, she said. It was like high praise from my grandmother. I wanted to get business cards made. RoseMarie Keogh-Smyth, clever stick. Just, it was the highest praise that I could ever ask for. And she is so proud. And because she's 100 and she forgets, every time she saw the book over the 3 weeks, it was new again. And she called me a clever stick and she got all excited for me.
Right on. It kind of falls into, advice on writing a book. Know what you're writing it for.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, I wrote it. So I wrote it for my family.
Mm.
I have a son who wants it all and he wants it now.
Mm.
And my husband seems to think that Pokemon cards are a good investment. Okay, now sure, if you've got that old Charizard card that's worth $250, sure, $250,000 on one card, but you had to have kept it from my nephew's youth, right? So I don't agree with that as an investment. I don't agree that my car is an investment. Even my Harley isn't an investment. That's an investment in my happiness, but I'm not selling it. So it's not an investment. It isn't on my net worth sheet. But my son, I want him to be able to refer back if I'm not here to give him the words. I want him to remember what's really important in life.
Mm.
I want him to continue to save for the right things. He's been saving for his car. So when I gave him those 2 piggy banks, the short-term savings, he had the long-term savings. He put way too much into the short-term savings. And I said, honey, I see this with my clients all the time. Like, you got to save a little for the long term. Can you just tell mommy what you're saving for? And maybe we can kind of figure this out. Oh, a car, mommy. Hot Wheels, RC, what are we talking? No, a car I can drive when I get my license.
There we go.
That's 10 years from now, child. I said, if that's your short-term savings, what's your long-term savings? Oh, I have. Then he handed me an American quarter, my American quarter, and he said, or I could just buy yours. Not quite enough, dear. You know. So we got a few more savings accounts going for his cat, for a trip, for a this, for a that, right?
Yeah.
So I started kind of expanding that a little bit. Now we're back down to, he still has his car savings account. It's in a bank account. Him and his grandmother went and they opened that up. He has an account for, he likes more expensive things that I'm willing to buy him. So when he gets his allowance, he puts half into the car fund. He puts a quarter into what we call the shoe fund because he really likes Nikes. And he puts a quarter into the I want it now fund. And he doesn't ask me for money anymore. He used to
Awesome.
ask me for it all the time. But now I'm like, you got your allowance.
Awesome. And that's where
Yeah,
you want to be,
that's
especially
exactly where I want to be.
get them there when they're young, and they'll be that way when as they grow.
Precisely.
Right. Very good. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or got anything you're working on? Any new book ideas, or not ready to share yet? That's okay. Or
Well, actually, I am. So I'm kind of scribbling on two books.
okay.
One of them is How to Save on Sunscreen and Why You Shouldn't. There's a small couple pages of that in my book, Don't Have Sex 9 Months Before Christmas, and other practical financial tips, just to kind of go into sometimes you got to spend the money, right? I'm also writing some courses called Speed Dating Your Money, where you're just going to get the quick and dirty tips to be able to move yourself through and shake it loose in a different way. So I'm very aware of we don't all take it in the same way. So for some people, reading a book is great, right? You can write in my book; it's like a workbook. Not in the library version though. Go to
No,
the
no, no,
downloads.
no, no. They can download the work from your website. They can do
They can
right,
absolutely
right that,
download
right?
the.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're like me, I can't write in a book. I just can't do it.
I haven't switched to
So
be able to either. No.
yeah, so just go download the worksheets and you're fine.
Yeah.
But for those of you who can write in the book and own the book, please just write in the book. It's worth more to you that way than a pristine copy of the book with an uncracked spine and all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, where was I going?
You were working on the courses where shaking it out and
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. So the different ways of learning.
Mm.
I've got a video for how to pay off your mortgage. I have the book. It comes in a Kindle version. There's a downloadable worksheet, and now there's going to be a video course available. I have an e-course, but that's probably going to be retiring. It's the e-course is called Debt Annihilation Bootcamp. But I think it's going to be moving over to the video format.
Mm.
And this month, I'm nearing the end of a 1 month book club, the 9 months before Christmas book club. That is March. I wanted to offer another activity one could do in March, other than, preparing for a baby. So.
Okay, well, it's like you got a lot ahead of you to do. So I just want to thank you for coming and talking to us today, and very, very appreciative. It's something, if you got to refresh in your mind, even if you've done it when you were at different ages as you're growing up, like before you move out of the house, then when you're an adult, and then you're moving like retirement for me, but you got to refresh and remember what your goals are and remember what your bills are. So it's
When I was talking to one of the folks who's taking the book club,
yeah.
Michael, I told him, I said, well, it's like a romance, right? You can't just say she's in place. You can't set it and forget it. I said, if you don't give attention, either your money or your honey are going to be walking away.
For sure.
Or your honey's walking away with your money. One of the two.
There's planning for that too, I suspect.
You got to plan for that too sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for talking today, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon for what's coming up next, and I'll just leave it there. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me.
Right on.